All right. I think we're live. You never know with how this stuff and technology and YouTube and everything, but what is going on, people? This is Randall Thorne 19, the man with the million, back again on a Saturday, unfortunately, but had to be done. Was a little bit too busy yesterday to do the show, but even though there's really not much to talk about, and that's news in itself, we had to do a show this week for you guys. I don't really like missing, but we're back, and with me, as always, my co-host, my buddy, my right-hand man, Jez Tarnished. What's going on, buddy? Of Windows Central fame. I don't know. You see, you don't have the cool like Randall Tarnished or whatever where you could easily say it's just Jez. You know, it's just kind of you just kind of basic,
Jez,
bro.
Jez the Tarnished. Yeah, I'm pretty basic. That's me, basic Jez. You know it is. But yes, we're back for another week, and man, we're really scraping the barrel. We really need some news soon, Rand. What is there to talk about, really? I think Microsoft is like, I don't know. They where are they? They've gone AWOL. Although they did announce some Halo stuff yesterday, so I guess there's something
Yeah,
to talk
well,
about.
the Halo stuff from yesterday really, it's really kind of angered a lot of people. So we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's weird. It's March. You think there'd be a lot of stuff to talk about. Maybe some companies are holding some things off because of the situation going around in the world right now, and they'd rather not like announce certain things or do certain things. But yeah, there's some things to talk about, and if you guys have any questions, make sure you put them in chat. Maybe you can come up with some better kind of segue topics for us to really kind of dance around to and talk about than I could come up with. Because my gaming the last week, Jez, has been nothing but Elden Ring. I'm approaching 40
shocked.
hours. 40 hours in Elden Ring. Like, for the past couple months, I've kind of haven't really been that much interested in gaming, right? There hasn't really been a game that's come out that really kind of was like, I need to play this. And some people DM me and they be like, they know that I like to read a lot, so I've been kind of like catching up on some books I wanted to read and stuff, and it was just kind of like there's really nothing catching my interest. But you know what Elden Ring has done? It has like reignited my love of gaming, Jez, which is odd to say considering all the times that I've basically ridiculed you for talking about Elden Ring and your newly found love for Dark Souls. Honestly, sometimes I'll wake up, I'll kind of do what I need to do, and then I'll look around and I just think about Elden Ring. I think about like, okay, what am I gonna do tonight in the game? What sort of bosses am I gonna fight? Like, I don't know, man. So thank you From Software for because I get like this sometimes. You play so many games that sometimes it's like I need to chill. Kind of like you kind of get burnt out. But Elden Ring's brought me back from the dead, Jez.
Man, that is literally what Dark Souls did for me. Like I hadn't played anything that really super excited me for a really long time. And Dark Souls, like I know it's 10 years old or whatever, but it really snapped me out of that. And I suppose Elden Ring's done that for you a bit. But the scary thing for me, Rand, I don't know if you feel the same way, is it's kind of increased my expectations a little bit. I could not go back to a Ubisoft open world after this. I just couldn't.
Well, you really didn't like Ubisoft open worlds regardless, so.
Well, for a longest time, it was almost like all there was, But like, and so like, I don't know if you've even tried it yet, but Cyberpunk 1.5 is also really, really good. And I was kind of bouncing between Elden Ring and Cyberpunk as well because they have done a huge amount of work to bring that game up to scratch. In line with some of the things people expected from it. Like the AI is so much better. There's like loads of like little events now in the game. Like in Cyberpunk, you'll just be walking around and then random stuff will happen that definitely wasn't in the game before. I've added like new quest elements here and there. Like it really does feel like they're trying to bring it back up to speed. And as someone who completed the original version, it's been really interesting to go back and see all the little tweaks they've done. But yeah, man, Elden Ring is it's just on
Yeah.
another level. It really is.
And I'm reusing the footage that I captured from like the basic first hour of gameplay because I was gonna capture some last night, but I'm 40 hours in and I'm like in areas that I don't really feel should be spoiled for people or boss fights. So I didn't capture
That makes
anything
sense.
new, because I got some badass armor now. I'm tearing stuff up with my build. Some bosses I have no trouble beating whatsoever. Other bosses, it take me 10 tries to beat them. But I didn't really want to spoil anything because I know a lot of people aren't maybe as far as I am. So that's why it's the same
That's
footage.
fair.
Because I didn't want to spoil people. But yeah, we got a lot of topics to talk about. We do have some things to talk about. So if you guys would do us a big favor, make sure you hit that like button and please share this out so people know that we're live an hour earlier than normal. When we do the show on Saturday, I feel awful. And because Gaz's show, Game on Daily, that Gaz does with Asa, which I'm a big fan of. I love Gaz. I love their podcast. I always feel bad for doing it around the time that they do it. So if we do the show on Saturday, we'll move it an hour ahead. So by the time we're finished, they're just starting. So I don't want to like run into other people's times.
Yeah.
So yeah, let people know that we're actually live now, an hour earlier than normal, and let's have a good show. I don't know how long this is gonna go for because I don't know what there really is to talk about. So yeah, we do have some super chats I wanted to get to, and maybe this will give us a little discussion. Our buddy Face, who's a great supporter of the channel, thank you, buddy. He says, PlayStation and Nintendo bring a lot of great games. Is Starfield the only game coming from Xbox this year, or will they show some games at E3 for this year? So this has kind of been, it's interesting because last year, all this stuff really goes in cycles. Last year, for the majority of the year, for the first 9 months, PlayStation had a couple games, Returnal and Ratchet and Clank, and then some indies. And everybody was waiting for Xbox to put some stuff out. And then Xbox put some stuff out at the end of the year, Forza, Halo, Psychonauts, a couple other things. And PlayStation didn't have anything. So the talking point went from PlayStation had games at one point and then didn't have anything in the fall, and then Xbox had the games. And, well, it's kind of flipped around because now Xbox doesn't have anything in the beginning of the year and PlayStation does, and Nintendo does as well because they just did a Direct. So now there's a lot of Xbox gamers that are feeling anxious about the games coming this year. Like, we don't really, outside of Starfield, which has a confirmed date, and Redfall, which is supposed to come in summer, those are only really two confirmed games from first party releasing this year, and they're releasing at the end of the year. So a lot of people are like, well, it's March now. What's coming on Xbox for the next 6-7 months? And, E3, which, is usually in June, Microsoft typically would have a show, which they normally do. His question is, obviously, Starfield's not the only game coming this year from Xbox. Redfall as well. There's rumors that Forza Motorsport will also launch this year, which I think is going to happen. I think Forza Motorsport will probably launch around September, because I have a feeling Redfall will launch in October. So I kind of think the lineup for this fall from first party is going to be Deathloop hitting Game Pass and Xbox in September, a year after its release, and then Forza Motorsport sometime end of September, with Redfall launching in October, and then Starfield coming in November. I don't really expect any other first-party games. I do think they might have some global publishing titles released this year, like As Dusk Falls, I think, got rated recently. So that could be potentially coming pretty soon, and maybe one of those smaller projects that you and Jeff Grubb had talked about and leaked, like Project Belfry or What are some other the project ones, Jez? You got a whole list of these things, a whole a whole document of project names. Like the Josh Sawyer game
Yeah,
potentially could come this year.
Pentiment. Yeah,
Pentiment,
I think Pentiment this year. Yeah,
but
possibly.
I don't really expect any new first party games to be announced to come out this year. So I mean they'll have more games to show, and I think their show will be more focused on next year when next year is supposed to be the quote unquote like the whole Xbox plan of a big game every quarter is supposed to be next year because
Mm-hmm.
they have on paper a lot of stuff planning on launching. But then also like Xbox is also very multiplayer focused. So even though this year there's only a few games launching, there's also people say new seasons of Sea of Thieves and new seasons of Halo Infinite and Grounded 1.0 and stuff like that. Um, are you feeling the anxiety from Xbox fans about the idea about the lack of dates and gameplay and events and all that stuff, Jez? Is that something that you get a sense for on Twitter? Are people constantly hitting you up for stuff and
Yeah, I
information?
am. I am getting. It does keep coming up. Like I was watching Miles' show on Windows Central Gaming, and people were asking that kind of stuff as well. I think there is definitely a factor that world events has probably shifted some marketing messaging for the sake of tactfulness, if nothing else. But um, I think that is probably a factor at play in some way. But I think we said last year that this year was going to be a bit drier, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think this is a lot of us maybe expected this, um, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to get into Dark Souls stuff because, like, at least I'll have something to play between now and Starfield. Like, can you imagine if I didn't get it? Because I was one of these guys who was like, I can't do Souls games. I'm no good at Souls games. Souls games are too hard. I don't have time. Blah blah blah. I was one of these people, and I was firmly in that mindset that I couldn't play Souls games. So if I hadn't got into Souls games right now, I wouldn't even be playing Elden Ring. I'd probably be playing like, I mean, at least I suppose there'd be Cyberpunk, but a lot of people still don't even want to play Cyberpunk, or they've finished it, they've done it and they're finished with it or whatever. Dying Light 2 wasn't that great. I don't think it's just a map game, as Jeff Grubb calls them. Although I actually think that term was coined by his buddy Mike, not actually Jeff. But still, uh, I didn't write Dying Light 2, man. After I like finished that, I just thought I'll never play this again and uninstalled it. So I don't know. I kind of get that. If you're not interested in Elden Ring, there's like not a huge amount to play between now and Starfield, really. So I think it would be nice if Microsoft put something out, to at least give people something to look forward to. But everything seems to be in flux right now. A lot of that stuff. So it's just another waiting game, really. But I do think when we finally do get Starfield, it's going to be kind of like Elden Ring and Skyrim, where it's going to have like tremendous legs, where it's just like it's the kind of game you can play for months. You can play it again with a different build. You can do like stuff in it and just keep playing it, and it'll be like a huge game that you stick with for a long time. I'm kind of thinking that way about Elden Ring right now because I'm not good at Elden Ring, man. I'm telling you, I'm really bad at it. I find it really hard. So when I play Elden Ring, it's slow going, man. It takes me a while to do anything in the game, and I know I'm going to be playing it for a long time because of that. But if you're pro, you probably get through it in like 100 hours, and then you got nothing to play again. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how would you if you weren't into Elden Ring and you weren't like um a Souls guy and you were just not going to play Elden Ring, like do you think you'd be feeling a bit of that pinch right now? Because there's not a huge amount on the docket, and the Halo update for season 2 wasn't that exciting.
Um, I mean, part of the one of the perks about having all the consoles is I can play whatever game I want to play whenever. So if I wasn't playing Elden Ring, like I could easily just play Horizon Zero Dawn or Forbidden West. I played Sifu, which I loved. So, and I do have some backlog stuff like Cyberpunk 2077. A year later, finally is the correct version of the game. I didn't
Yeah,
I didn't
I
play it at
actually think
launch,
it's like
so there is Cyberpunk
it's really good, man.
to
I love it.
play. I'm just saying, like, there's always stuff in my backlog that even me, like, who tries to play as much as I possibly can, I can't get to everything anymore. So I could easily pick out some things that I could play. Like, the question is, would I be excited for any of it? Because it's not really exciting to play your backlog. I don't know if anybody else feels that same way. Or maybe sometimes I get caught up in the hype. Like, I get caught up in the Elden Ring hype, and I play it, and thank God I loved it. But, like, there's, like, really no hype for, like, going back and playing a game in your backlog. Like, Cyberpunk 2077. Like, it was a game I was really excited to play because I like CD Projekt Red. And it was like, okay, it's finally here, and then like all the bad press and everything was just like, and then it wasn't a next gen version, and I had this Xbox Series X, I wanted the next gen version. I'm like, well, I'll wait for the next gen version because they said one's coming, right? And it literally took a year, but now like the excitement I had for Cyberpunk is gone, so it's kind of like, okay, well, I could play it, but do I really want to? I'm kind of. I guess
I'm gonna interject here. I would beg you to push through that feeling because Cyberpunk, like, it's so damn good now, and I loved it at launch, But I think the way I played it probably gave me a different experience to what a lot of other people played it. Because I played it, I barely played with the guns or a lot of the attacks. I played like purely as a net runner and stealth. So, like, I played it kind of like Deus Ex. So a lot of the issues people had with some of the gunplay and the loot, I never got a sense of that because I was running around setting people on fire by overloading their cybernetics or whatever. So, but I'm playing it again now as a shooter with a shotgun and absolutely loving it. Like, the shotgun feels really good to use. I've got one that can shoot through walls, like it shoots like microwave bullets or something. I don't even know, but highly recommend it, man. When you're done, and also because I want to know what you think of it.
No,
so
yeah.
When you get through Elden Ring, please play Cyberpunk.
Do I really want to play another open world game right after I play Elden Ring?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Okay, that's a good one.
It's different. It's not like Elden Ring's open world because you drive around, but it's not like you do much in the open world. You sort of go into like a lot of buildings a lot of the time and play it more like big Deus Ex. That's how I think of Cyberpunk. It's big Deus Ex, but I don't know. I think you'll love it. I really do.
The Outbreak Podcast says Xbox 2 is the best show on YouTube. Hit the like button. Yeah, thank you, and make sure you guys hit the like button. It really helps out. Felipe says Elden Ring is a walk and roll backwards simulator. I do roll a lot. And at one point I think I was heavy load, so I was fat rolling. I'm like, I need to get rid of some of this stuff because I can't be fat rolling everywhere, Jez. It doesn't feel good to play, right?
I saw Maka's tweet where it's like, "Oh my god, I've been playing the whole game with fat rolls. I didn't know you could get not fat rolls," which I thought was just shocking. Because I don't know you can play fat rolls.
Arigato Sir says, a serious question for Mayo Man and Randall Trillionaire. Is Starfield really releasing this year? We haven't seen gameplay, nor can you pre-order the game, starting to get Halo Infinite E3 flashbacks. I've seen this come up quite a bit about Starfield and the idea of it actually really releasing this year.
I'll tell you why it's releasing this year.
Okay, tell me, Jez.
This
please.
is
Give me them leaks.
This is exactly the same marketing cycle they did for Fallout 4. They didn't show Fallout 4 until 6 months before it came out. It's exactly the same scenario.
That is 100% true, and I was gonna say that. I think people realize that these sort of games get a very short window. That's why there's also a lot. If you recall last year, we had heard that Starfield was going to be revealed. There was a few people telling me that the game might actually release last year. And I kind of said that on the podcast, and then certain outlets reported that, and it was wrong. And I was kind of like, of course. Like, I remember I had said two things. I said, I know for a fact it's exclusive, which it was, and that some people were telling me it was coming out, which it clearly didn't. But one of the reasons why some of the people were, who I usually trust that tell me some things, were leaning towards it releasing was because, one, they were going to show it, and they were hearing, from people that it was going to come out. Obviously, that ended up wrong. Not everything I hear is always true. That's why I don't repeat a lot of the stuff, and that's why, Jez, you normally don't really go to bat for something unless you see documented evidence for it, and then you write about it on Windows Central, right?
Yeah, generally.
Because how many, tell the people how many rumors there are that go around about video games and all that stuff, like, every single day that you hear. It's crazy, right?
Man, it is crazy. Filtering what's real and what's not is, it's hard work. It takes a lot of time, and, especially if, like, I don't really bother to the same extent that I used to, but, like, nowadays I'm just like, I'll just wait and see, and if someone comes to me with something that I think is genuinely concrete, then it's different. But that's rare that happens, frankly, that something seems so concrete that it can't be ignored. So, sort of navigating that sort of a lot of people want to catch you out too. Like, there's a lot of trolls there who, like, they tell you things because they want you to try and report it, and then it's like, hey, look, he was wrong, So there are people like trolling.
I get a fair share of those in DMs, like, telling me, like, oh, the next Xbox event is on this day, and this is the whole list of everything that's going to be shown. It's like, you really just want me to make a video about this? Like, I know you're pulling my leg. Why would I do that? I'm not that hard up for needing views and clicks and stuff like that. Like, I'm just gonna fabricate some stuff. But back to the whole Starfield thing. So, Todd loves the whole short kind of release hype window where it's like, okay, the game's coming out in 6 months. Here's a big walkthrough. They did it for Fallout 4. They did it for Fallout 76. I think it worked incredibly well for 4. 76 is an entirely different matter. I don't think the failure of 76 in the beginning was on marketing. I think it was just based on how bad the game was, because it was marketed well. Like, I thought Todd did a good job on stage showing what Fallout 76 was. And the other thing that I've noticed recently, Jez, is that they really talk about Elden Ring, or not Elden Ring, got Elden Ring on the brain, but Starfield quite a bit. There was that kind of, Todd Howard's been talking about concept art. There's been trailers that have come out recently. Like, they're sort of hyping up Starfield in a way that I haven't really seen Xbox hype up one of their games in a while. I mean, they're really talking about concept art. You don't normally see games run trailers and talk about concept art for stuff. I mean, they certainly have. They didn't do that for Halo, and that's their biggest franchise. So there's a part of me that thinks Microsoft knows what they have. They think it's going to be big. They're kind of doing this long-burning pre-hype with Todd and the concept art stuff that they're doing, and then they're going to have the blowout whenever they do their summer show. And everybody, like, I understand right now people are like, it's probably not coming, the way the pandemic's still going on, so people are still working from home and stuff, but I feel pretty solid about Starfield releasing this year.
Yeah, same.
But the problem is, people are going to have to wait 3 months to see it, probably. That's the other thing. People want to see it now. So
I want to see it now.
I mean, hell, I would love to see it now. There's even a rumor, I think, what was it? Like, somebody had DM'd me and was like, I got a hot tip for you. And I'm like, okay. He's like, you know how Phil's receiving the that award from DICE or whatever for the Lifetime Achievement? And I'm like, yeah. Todd Howard's giving him the award. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, they're going to debut a Starfield trailer right after. And I'm like, no, they're not. Like, and I'm like, but this guy was trying to pawn it off like he had, like, I heard from a friend. This is what's happening. And I'm just like, that wouldn't make any sense to roll a trailer for Elden Ring, for for Starfield after Phil's acceptance speech at DICE. Like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But this guy was trying to pawn it off like, I have friends at Xbox. I know what's happening. Like, okay, dude, sure, no problem.
Was he whispering when he said it?
I'm just saying, that's how some of these people try to act. It's like, okay, yes. Sure, buddy. Flame in the super chat, thank you. He goes, good afternoon, lads. Really enjoying the best release from yesterday. Triangle Strategy is a goat. Story choices remind me of old BioWare games. Jez, you're the resident Nintendo fanboy on this podcast. Rarely the only Nintendo fan around. Triangle Strategy is out. Are you going to be playing it? You like Nintendo stuff, right?
I often do like Nintendo stuff, but I just don't have time anymore for a lot of this stuff. I don't know.
So nothing to say about Triangle Strategy here. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's sort of inspired by the those classic Final Fantasy Tactics games, right?
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder why this game isn't just Final Fantasy Tactics. Like, why not just make it Final Fantasy Tactics? That's weird to me because it is Square Enix, right? It's weird, but it's also annoying that it's only on Switch, and is it going to be one of these games that eventually comes to Xbox and PlayStation like Octopath did?
Well, Octopath I think's has only come to Xbox. I still don't think it's come to PlayStation yet.
Oh, really?
I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think it has come to PlayStation yet.
Like, I don't know. It's just I just don't have time for my Switch anymore. There's too much I want to play on Xbox. Like you were saying earlier you were saying like you don't get hyped to play games in your backlog. Since Dark Souls, I've kind of got over that because I used to feel that way as well. And now like I really want to just go through my backlog. Like I was talking to people on Twitter about Dragon's Dogma the other day. So a lot of people were saying like, oh, if you like Dark Souls, maybe you should try Dragon's Dogma because it's like superficially sort of similar-ish in some ways. So I don't know. I'm gonna go through my backlog. I've got like loads of games I want to play in the backlog. So,
I mean, I got a bunch of games in my backlog too. Trey Dukes says, "What's the news on Scalebound? The game that never ends. Still, another podcast, another mention of Scalebound. Nothing's going on with Scalebound. I don't think anything's ever going to go on with Scalebound.
Never.
Well, I guess maybe never say never. So maybe something might happen. But, Jez, I don't know if you saw this, but Platinum released their newest game. Babylon's Fall, I believe it is. PS5, PC exclusive.
That's Platinum?
Yeah, that's Platinum. And
apparently... No, I thought it was like Square Enix or something.
Well, no, it's published by Square Enix. So
did I know that?
Platinum development, published by Square Enix. Currently got a 40 on Metacritic. I think launch night it had 600 players on Steam. So it looks like a game that bombed. It's a PS5 and PC exclusive. And now it kind of makes sense why PlatinumGames was talking about the idea of being acquired. And being like, Microsoft, let's work on Scalebound. Because their newest game just probably bombed beyond their wildest expectations. And I can't imagine Square Enix is happy. So, yeah, a lot of that makes sense. They're probably like, hey, you know what? We would totally be up for acquisition. Microsoft, hey, Sony, whoever's out there willing to spend... Yeah, like, don't forget about us. And they just release a huge stinker of a game. Which is funny because that game's supposed to be a games as a service, but then they lock it to PlayStation 5. It's like, if you're going to make a games as a service, the whole point is for it to be everywhere. But maybe Square Enix had no... like they knew what they had, and they're like, well, Sony's giving us some bunch of money. We might as well take it and make something off this, right?
Yeah.
But so
what I don't get is like, why is Platinum so hit and miss? Platinum's made some amazing games like Bayonetta and Metal Gear Rising, really good game, and obviously Nier Automata. Why do they go from that to this? How do they do that? That's really strange.
That's That is interesting. That's people have been asking that question for a long time. How do you have Platinum, who makes such masterpieces like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance and Bayonetta 1 and 2 and Nier Automata, to then the same people that make Babylon's Fall and Legend of Korra and Transformers, whatever game they made, like they're really low-rated licensed stuff, like that Turtles game that came out a few years ago. Like, how do you make such great games, and then how do you make such crap shovelware? I don't know. Maybe it's just who's leading the teams. I mean, there must be clearly some divide or budget in some of the games, but yeah. Cameron Mitchell, which that's my sister's fiance, Jez, by the way.
Wow.
He says, "What about Saints
Shout
Row?"
out.
That got delayed. It's coming out in August, Cam. And Sarah says hi. So, hi Sarah. Hope you're doing well. She's probably working. She's working as a traveling nurse, Jez.
A traveling nurse.
Traveling nurse.
That seems interesting.
Yeah, well, she if you have your nursing license, you can kind of go work in other states and make bank. Like, she making big bucks because there's a nursing shortage in the U.S. and some places you go to they pay more, and she's making the big dollars. So,
So she's kind of like, if you're Rand millionaire, she's Rand billionaire.
I wish I was a millionaire, but no. Yeah.
I
Let's
thought
see.
all YouTubers were millionaires.
Jacqueline, what's going on, buddy? He says, fellow maidenless tarnished, can you guys feel George R. Martin's influence in this game? I certainly can. When I read The Golden Gabe, I felt his influence. Yeah, I can definitely see his influence in this, with some of the naming, some of the item descriptions.
I don't know his work that well. I never watched Game of Thrones fully, but I did notice there was a sword that was made of swords that kind of looked like a throne made of swords. So that was my soul sort of like, oh yeah.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah, I saw that sword and I'm like, oh, someone got inspiration for Game of Thrones. Aaron has been a member for 17 months. Thank you, buddy. He says, "Why, hello, lovelies. Hello to everybody in chat. Hope everybody's having a great Saturday. And hopefully this time Gaz won't want to kill me, because we're going to be done before his show. Although there's really nothing to talk about, so... Nightwolf. He goes, no wrestling fans, huh? WWE 2K22 looks promising after the extra time they took. Well, I'm sure I'm rare company, but I'm excited for what's new this year. I used to be a wrestling fan. I used to play a lot of the wrestling games when I was a big fan. Like, I remember playing, like, SmackDown, and being a big, like in high school when I was 15 or 16, playing WCW versus NWO Revenge and WWF No Mercy, or was it? Yeah, WWF No Mercy and WWF WrestleMania 2000, like loving those games. But I don't know, I kind of fell off of wrestling, and I kind of fell off the games themselves. But they didn't release one last year, but now they're releasing a new one. And I think that's coming out in a couple weeks. The funny thing, though, is a lot of people have left the company. So, like, I think 20% of the roster is no longer with the company, Jez, which is always very funny. No longer with the WWE. So,
isn't there like some big crisis in the WWE right now, or something?
Big crisis. I mean, a lot of people are leaving for AEW.
Like COVID really negatively impacted the business or something. I don't know.
Something like that. I don't really pay attention to what's going on. I have some friends who do, but I mean, I was hugely into wrestling when I was in high school. Like, hugely. I went to a bunch of live events. I went to house shows at here in Chicago at the Ridgemont. I was at the show where Chris Jericho debuted in the WWE when the Countdown to Millennium. Yeah, I'm dating myself. I was 17 when that happened. We used to every Monday night. We used to go over to my buddy's house, and we'd have the TV side by side. One watching WCW with, the NWO for life, Hogan, Hall, and Nash. And now this isn't a video game podcast anymore. It's a wrestling podcast. And then we'd have the other TV with Raw is War with Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and, Triple H and Undertaker and all that stuff. And we'd all be there, and it would be amazing. And then we'd literally would troll. We would not troll, but we would scour the internet for rumors about who was leaving which company and all the things that were happening. We were so into that stuff for almost all of high school. We would go to the events and stuff like that, and then I guess maybe we kind of just grew out of it or whatever. But those were good times, man. Those were good times hanging with the guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we had the same thing. We used to, because in the UK, Monday Night Raw was on at the middle of the morning, or early morning, 2 in the morning or 1 in the morning or something. They used to air it again on a Friday. So generally people watched it the following week, and because it was the pre-internet era, there was no spoilers or anything online anyway.
Well, no, what's funny was that WWF would tape shows, right? They would tape shows because they weren't always live, and then WCW would give off the results of the show. So the whole infamous thing, yeah. So because they were in the war, who was going to be number one, and WCW was winning for X amount of time. And so they would be on Raw, this is going to happen because the shows were taped. And then the infamous Eric Bischoff, the infamous thing happened where he said, Mankind, Mick Foley is going to win their title. And he said, that's really going to put some butts in seats. And that was the turning point because people did actually want to see that. And it was a huge moment even though it was taped. Yeah. Great. I know this stuff because I lived it. I didn't even know that stuff. I was a huge wrestling fanboy back in my high school days. Loved it. Oh my god.
Did you backyard wrestle?
No, I never did backyard wrestle. No, never did any of that.
I have scars from backyard wrestling. Even now. Oh man.
Wolf Assassin has been a member for 9 months. Says, "Hello, my fellows tarnished. I loved Miles Dampier's piece on Xbox Directs, but a job listing hints at someone helping making showcases. Coincidence? Interesting. This is a topic, so I feel, you brought it up, we might as well discuss it. Shout out to Miles, though. He had the one and only Greg Miller of Kinda Funny and IGN fame on Xbox Chatter Days yesterday, Jez.
He did.
How'd that show go? Did you check it out?
I haven't watched it fully yet. I dropped by, but it was I was, with the missus at the time. We watched Naked Gun. Have you ever seen that, Naked Gun?
Yes, I've seen Naked Gun. Yes.
Great movie. But anyway, it's interesting that Miles, a lot of people start banging the drum about they should do a direct, and I've actually spoke to people at Microsoft about this. There is a sort of a mini rebellion within Microsoft where there's a lot of people within Microsoft saying, yeah, we should do something like this. But there's whether or not they're going to do it or not is often, resides in someone else's, remit or whatever. So it'd be interesting to see if they actually do go ahead with something like Nintendo Direct. I personally think they should. I think when we polled the audience, you guys were pretty split on it. A lot of people wanted that classic E3 blowout, whereas other people were yeah, give us random bits around the year. So people were pretty split on that, and I was quite surprised. But I don't know. I guess we saw another one of them. Wait and see, right? I don't have any information on that.
Well, the reason people are talking about this, and I put it in the title, is because they are hiring for a director, Xbox broadcast and event strategy lead, which would lead people to believe that okay, well, they're going to be doing more events if they're hiring a director. And one of the things that it says is, as the broadcast and event strategy lead, you will be responsible for building and delivering a world-class strategy that is innovative and showcases the future of storytelling at Xbox.
Oh crap! Can you link me that? I'm gonna write that as a story.
Yeah. You didn't know about this, homie?
No, I didn't. I've just been. I had the last couple of days off work, so when it's really dumb because I really enjoy Xbox stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
But
clearly you built your career around it.
yeah, yeah. But like, it's kind of like, what should I do on my day off? Should I stop looking up Xbox news? But I actually like looking up Xbox news as a hobby. So then it's like, well, am I even capable of taking time off? I don't know anymore. I don't know, Rand. But yeah, I didn't see that. Please send me a link in
I
the
did. I DM'd
DMs.
it to you. I mean, basically, it says the Xbox programming and events team creates video content and event experiences that delight and engage the global gaming audience. These experiences and broadcasts reach millions of players, fans, and other audiences around the globe every single year. We are a team that is super passionate about gaming and storytelling. We pride ourselves on connecting with players around the world in innovative and interactive ways. We obsess about learning and trying new things. Most of all, we help foster an emotional connection between Xbox and the players, creators, fans, and make it all possible. We are looking for a creative and proven leader to help evolve our premier video broadcast and event strategy and to lead a talented team of marketers to bring that strategy to life. As the broadcast and event strategy lead, you will be responsible for building and delivering a world-class strategy that is innovative and showcases the future of storytelling. This includes assessing how premier video broadcasts and digital/physical events can best delight our audiences and support business needs over the next 3 years. You will also lead a team of creative and talented marketers and executive producers and help them deliver on that strategy. So, hearing that, Jez, what do you think they're talking about? I mean, they literally mentioned digital and physical events, so...
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think like Microsoft, we've talked about it before, how like with Bethesda and the QuakeCon stuff, and they've got Minecon. If they do manage to land Activision Blizzard, then they're gonna have BlizzCon as well, and that kind of begs the question: like, do you have one event, or do you keep them all separate, or like, God, what do you do? It's having someone in charge of strategizing what the hell you meant to do is probably a pretty good idea at this point, I would say. But
Well,
again, it's another one of them.
like, I've talked to people like Phil, and I asked them like, hey, when do you guys start planning for E3? This is when they were doing the physical events. I don't know if it's really changed since it's kind of moved to digital. And I know E3's canceled, but we refer to the big show in June as E3. That's kind of just like tradition. I know it's not E3, but it's like that's what it is, you know? So it's like I just call it that even though there really isn't an E3 anymore. And he always said like planning always begins like right after the current E3 ends. And especially you kind of like have meetings towards the end of the year. So I would imagine they're already planning or have been planning whatever they're planning to show this. I would assume they're going to have a show during the summer. Because we've talked about this before. I don't think right now Xbox has the capacity. Well, capacity is maybe the wrong word. I don't think Xbox has the games that are coming out this year to warrant 3 shows. Right? Next year, however, that's a different story. And then 2024, 2025, that's different. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons they're hiring for this position right now, because these are the sort of things you need to plan out in the future, because you need to get all of your studios on board and be like, okay, we would like something from you. We would like something from you. These things all got to be put together. And I know there are a lot of people asking for more shows. I mean, I would love more shows. It would give me something to talk about. I love to see new games. I just also feel that Microsoft wouldn't really show anything. I can already picture how this would go in my head. Because when Sony does a state of play, and it's mostly indie games, and then maybe a first-party game, people crap on it. Because what people really want to see is they want to see big AAA experiences and they want to see the big first-party stuff. People don't want to see indie stuff. And I'm not saying indie stuff is bad. I love indie stuff. I'm saying how the normal audience views stuff, right? So anybody listening who loves indie stuff, I'm not saying indie stuff is bad. I'm saying the general audience doesn't want to see it, and every single time a show is focused around smaller indie games, people are like, this isn't what I tuned in for. So because Xbox's content is light this year, which we've been saying, I don't know, forever that 2022 was going to be light, just like last year was, a lot of their events would be focused on smaller indie content potentially coming to Game Pass, and I already could see the reactions from people saying that the show was quote unquote garbage or trash or not worth my time or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because what people really want to see is, I want to see Hellblade 2, I want to see Avowed, I want to see Perfect Dark, I want to see, whatever big AAA game, Back for Blood 2 or whatever is set to come out. But you need to fill in the gaps with the smaller indie games. So when PlayStation's done it recently, they get crapped on by their own fans. So I think knowing that, I think they're probably a little more reluctant to go out and have a show. I mean, just remember when they did the show last year, Jez, or was it last year? It's 2020. No, 2020, before the new consoles came out, and it was like they did a show in May, and it was mostly smaller games, and then like Assassin's Creed. Do you remember how the people reacted to that showing? They weren't very happy, were they?
No.
Right? And I kind of feel like if Xbox did a show next month, and it was mostly smaller games coming to Game Pass or that Xbox is partnering with, and then maybe like, here's a look at Redfall, I think people would still be upset because they don't want to see the indie stuff. And that's just my opinion.
They don't want to see the indie stuff taking up the stage, I think is.
But the problem is that's all they would have. There isn't, with all that's going on right now, Xbox doesn't have a lot coming in this year, and I don't think they're going to show anything from next year. So that's why I sort of feel like you're hiring for this person now because in the future you need to do multiple shows. You need to start planning for that now, but not this year. That's just my 2 cents on it. I could be completely wrong. Maybe they're going to have a show in April or something. But I sort of feel that with the way this year is, it'll be one big show in the summer with a huge focus on Starfield as like the primary thing, and then basically kind of a look at 2023 with the titles coming next year. And then next year you could have a show in March or February that showcases some of the stuff coming early in the year, and then you can have another show in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
If what Xbox's plans look like actually proceed, because they have a ton of games planned for next year. Now, not all of them are going to make it, but it's definitely more than the two or three they have planned for the end of the year. So, yeah. Onyx in the super chat says, can you imagine if Infinite releases on 2020, we would only have Forza on 2021? Just 2 games for Xbox first party, just 1 game confirmed this year, Starfield. We don't even know how Redfall plays. I mean, yeah, that's what me and Jez has been saying since 2020, though. I mean, I don't think anybody listening to this podcast who's been listening for this long time would be shocked by that revelation, because me and Jez have been specifically talking about this for quite some time. And yeah, when you put it like that, it doesn't really sound too great, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Paul says Stalker.
It sucks, but it's also like it's not gonna last. This is the last year where we have these sort of droughts. I think we are sort of moving to an age where it's going to be like there's going to be more content than people can handle. It's just going to take time, and especially if they do land Bethesda, which is nowhere near what I describe as definite at the moment. If they do land Bethesda, they're going to have exclusives out of Bethesda as well. I think not Bethesda, Activision. If they do land Activision, they're gonna have mountains of exclusives, like absurd amounts of exclusives, and because Call of Duty might be staying multiplat, but I think a lot of their games won't. I think maybe if they land the deal I think Diablo 4, probably Diablo 4 will stay multi-platform because they probably won't land the deal before it's finished. But I can see a world where Diablo 5 goes exclusive. I see a world where like Overwatch 3 goes exclusive maybe. I don't think Call of Duty will ever be exclusive, but I think some of those sort of extraneous Blizzard franchises will go exclusive. I do think like if they do StarCraft Ghost, that's going to go exclusive. They do make a Warcraft action RPG, that'll be exclusive, you know. I think it's just Call of Duty that's sort of guaranteed to not be exclusive, um but that ain't what people want to hear, man. They don't want to hear that you've got to wait because let's be honest, Rand, we've been waiting. We've been waiting a long time for a lot of this stuff to sort of come to fruition. We've sort of, I don't know, we've definitely turned a corner when it comes to the way things were during the Xbox One generation. But there's still a degree of what I would think of as a holding pattern almost. But I don't know. Luckily, there's a lot of stuff to play as long as you're willing to explore outside of the hype train, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is true. A lot of people put a lot of importance on exclusives, right? Rightfully so. I mean, they are kind of what separates console ecosystems for one another. So when one of them has like a really good game, they kind of brag about it to the other ones. But then like got a game like Elden Ring, which is gonna probably far surpass most exclusives. I mean, I don't know. Elden Ring's talked about more than most games. Period. Not only on Twitter but on YouTube. Like my whole recommendation feed is basically all Elden Ring content. It's absurd.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It
is wild.
Yeah. So
the sheer amount of the Windows Central doubles its traffic last week.
Just
literally double our traffic.
Well, that's what everybody wanted to know about, man. They wanted to know about easy cheese builds, like sorcery builds, you know, with the one shot 60 intelligence staff where you can like one shot enemies and stuff. I know you running that build, Jez.
I'm trying. I haven't got the staff yet. Well, that's the thing. You gotta get the blue staff first. You know, and sorcery is great until you have to fight in close quarters. Then you get one shotted. But I do love my sorcery. I do love it. Although I'll be honest, I found melee. I didn't find melee to be too hard either, though. To be honest, but I don't know.
Paul says
that whole debate.
Paul says Stalker 2 was pushed back to December, and with everything going on in Ukraine, hopefully it gets pushed into 2023 for all their employees' safety. I mean, I think they kind of insinuated so that they stopped development on the game for good reasons. So yeah, I don't really expect Stalker 2 this year. And anybody using the potential delay of that game to next year for console war is pathetic in my opinion. So
they're not just pathetic; they're pure scum.
Yeah.
If you are someone who's using the delay of Stalker for console war, you are scumbag, trash, and you should be banned from the internet.
Ochawacha says, "Hello, Xbox and ponies. PC Master Race still rules. Make love, not Warcraft."
Charming.
I did see an article that said, with the Activision Blizzard acquisition, which sidebar, you mentioned to me that you don't feel confident that it's going to actually pass.
Yeah, I'm about 50-50 on it at the moment. Because like investors certainly don't believe it's going to pass because the share price is trading below what Microsoft's offering right now, which is not what you'd expect. But also the stock market's down in general because everyone's freaking out and probably like the last thing people are thinking about are video game stocks. But like it constantly keeps coming out that Activision's still having problems. Like they can't hire people, they can't retain talent, nobody wants to stay. You know, I mean, that could be a sort of an argument for the acquisition that they desperately need new leadership if their companies to survive, right? That could be an argument for it. But it could also be an argument like from Microsoft's perspective, like, are we actually going to get a company here or are we going to get a hollow shell of a company that has nobody left? Because there's still a big crisis within Blizzard, retaining staff, having high quality staff, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I don't think it's a done deal at all anymore. I was sort of like, yeah, this will definitely happen. This will definitely happen. I don't think the FTC will block it. I think it might fall through for other reasons, like Microsoft pulls out and thinks like, oh god, probably this was probably not a good idea, or Blizzard lurches from crisis to crisis and has even more issues and stuff like that. I don't think it's for certain right now, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just being negative and pessimistic because that's the way I'm feeling at the moment.
Yeah, because they did come out and they said they needed to hire a woman for their board by the end of 2021, and they didn't, and they blamed the Microsoft acquisition, even though they were told they needed to do this back in 2018. And then, they came out and said it's really hard to hire. Yeah, no wonder, because your company is a horrible place to work. So no wonder you can't hold on to people. Now, there's kind of this whole people, like a lot of these, like we've seen a lot of games get announced with blog posts, Jez, or Twitter posts, when normally you would have a trailer, right? We saw what are some games recently that were just announced out of nowhere, like Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm blanking on some other big ones. The Blizzard unannounced survival game.
Blizzard survival game, yeah.
The couple Star Wars projects by Respawn. There was a whole bunch of big games that were announced in blog posts simply because like people need to, like they need hire. And there was a report that came out about Quantic Dreams Star Wars Eclipse, which I sent to you and I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
Because they put out a trailer which looked cool. And I guess the whole purpose was they were using the trailer to kind of help, be like, hey, come work with us. But nobody wants to work for Quantic Dream because, shocker, I guess they're a horrible company to work for too. And because of that, now that game is looking like it won't actually release until 2028. So 6 years from now. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is optimistic, that is.
But I also wonder what the license holder thinks that is like. Are they cool with the game taking that long to come out? I don't know if there's time limits on that stuff, but like, people kind of can pick and choose where they want to work at. You don't necessarily have to work at Activision Blizzard anymore. And you're right, that maybe that's an issue for Microsoft. They complete the acquisition, but all the talent's gone. Sure, you own the Call of Duty IP, and maybe someone would say the IP is bigger than the people who make it, but, that could be an issue. It seems like they mostly retain a lot of the people at Bethesda, but I would imagine a lot of people are going to bounce ship from Activision Blizzard, so let's wait and see how that all plays out. But what I wanted to say about the Warcraft thing was I think there was an ex-developer at Blizzard that says he thinks that Warcraft 4 is going to happen now once the acquisition goes through. That like Activision never wanted them to do Warcraft 4 because it doesn't make sense. But, Microsoft is obviously going to feel a little bit differently. They're going to need a lot of games, and he thinks that Warcraft 4 would happen. Would you want to see a Warcraft 4?
I would. I think Warcraft 4 would be perfect, really, because Warcraft 4 is kind of like, I don't know if you ever played Warcraft 3 Rand, but it had really strong RPG mechanics. That's like one of the weird things about Warcraft was it had like these RPG elements that other RTSs didn't really have at the time. Like you pick up items and you sort of controlled the heroes more like they were individual characters, which is where the whole MOBA genre came from. It was originally a mod for Warcraft 3. So Warcraft 3 had these heroes which had like equipment and levels and all that kind of stuff. And no MMO had really done anything like that before. No RTS, sorry. And I think that fits perfectly within the whole idea of having an RTS that you can reliably play on console, because I think like if you were taking direct command of some of those units, controlling it with a joystick would be like fine and dandy. But on that note, I do think they are bringing Age of Empires to Xbox this year as one of the other games to expect. Now, if you're an Xbox fan, like really desperate for new games, and you were waiting for Age of Empires to come to Xbox, I think this year could be the one. But I'll have to wait and see about that. But yeah, I'd love to see Warcraft 4, man. Everyone would. But hopefully with different writers than World of Warcraft, because World of Warcraft writing right now is absolutely garbage.
Interesting. My man Punkadish has been a member for 12 months, says 1 year supporting boys Rand Jez. Keep it up, guys. Much love. Felipe says God Howard will take over 2022 soon after E3. Achievement says, do you think Elden Ring could inspire Elder Scrolls 6 in some way? I'm playing Elden Ring, and I think some of the mechanics could complement the franchise. What do you think, Jez? Elder Scrolls
Elden
becoming like
Scrolls.
Elden Ring or a Souls game? What do you think?
I don't think they need to do that for Elder Scrolls, because like Elder Scrolls just has its own thing. One of the things that Elder Scrolls does need to improve is its melee combat, like its first person combat. After playing like Elden Ring, which has immaculate not first person combat, immaculate melee combat. I think like a lot of these games that do have melee combat are gonna have to step their game up. I'm absolutely in awe at the amount of combat animations that are in this game. Like, it's truly absurd that you can pick up like basically two weapons of the same class, but they handle completely differently because of like different weapon arts you can get and stuff. So I do think that Elden Ring has changed my expectations of what itemization in the game must look like, and maybe like Elden Ring needs to look at that too. Like, it's not like I don't know, a lot of the stuff in Fallout and Western games that have these kind of mechanics, they're kind of like, they're just arbitrary. They're just slap modifications on existing weapons. But Elden Ring's weapons, like, they just handle completely differently. Like, they have all different attack animations and all that kind of stuff. So maybe on that level, the itemization they could look at and the class building. But I don't think they need to make it a Souls-like. In fact, I think they definitely shouldn't make it a Souls-like.
Everything doesn't need to be a Souls-like, right?
Could be yeah. But honestly, Ryan, one game that I think could benefit from Souls-like mechanics is Gears of War.
Oh, interesting. More like Remnant of Ashes, maybe?
Yeah, after playing Remnant from the Ashes, which is basically like, it's like a Souls-light. Not quite Souls-like. It has some vaguely similar-ish mechanics. It got me thinking about how they could raise the stakes in Gears of War and stuff. I can still keep the easy modes and stuff like that, but I do think like bringing it more in that direction could help Gears of War find some differentiation and stuff, and maybe attracting a more hardcore crowd. I don't know.
Georgie wants to know, ask Jez if he's heard anything about Killer Instinct 2. Please, Jez. He really wants to know something about Killer Instinct 2, Jez. Come on. Help a brother out. Yeah. George wants to know.
I'm sorry, man, but I haven't heard anything that isn't already out there. Special Nick said, Special Nick of Xbox Era fame said that he thought it was coming. And I personally haven't heard that it's coming, that aspect of it. But someone did, I got a vague hint that Microsoft was working with a Japanese publisher, possibly Bandai Namco, on a fighting game. And obviously that would be Killer Instinct, right?
One would think.
Yeah.
9 Live says, Jeff Grubb said he heard NXL could be working on a Fallout game. What do you think?
Jeff Grubb said that?
Supposedly.
That'd be
yes.
Well.
There were I did
That is very interesting.
I did hear rumors a while back that there were going to be Fallout games before Fallout 5. I remember hearing about it, but I kind of was just like, eh. And one of the studios mentioned was NXL, and I was kind of like, okay, what would NXL actually be making? You know, like, are they making a new Fallout game? Would they? I don't know, but that is something I remember hearing about last year. But Jeffrey Grubb, if he's kind of putting it out there, speculating, I don't know. How would you feel about NXL? I do feel that Microsoft wants a Fallout game this generation, right? Like, Fallout 5 is too far away, right? Even if Obsidian, which we talked about last week, doing like a Fallout Chicago or a Fallout New Vegas 2 or a Fallout California, that even would still be, 6 years away, 7 years away, right? Still a long time. I do feel like Microsoft wants a Fallout this year. So, or this gen at least. Earlier rather than later. So we know from your reporting that NXL is working on Project Cobalt. Or was it Project Cobalt? So I guess some of these confused.
Yes, Project Cobalt. Project Cobalt,
which is a
yeah,
steampunk
steampunk
RPG,
FPS.
right? Is an FPS? I thought it was an FPS too, right?
Yeah, steampunk RPG FPS on the Unreal Engine. Yeah,
So
I
could they
believe.
possibly also have another project that might be Fallout related as well? What do you think?
Well, this is the cool thing about the creation engine. It's like it's rapid to iterate on the creation engine. So if they are gonna make a true Fallout game, like a spin-off, like a New Vegas kind of game, they could potentially iterate quite quickly with the creation engine because that's what it's designed for. The creation engine is designed to be like a developer described it to me like Lego blocks, you know. And that's why it was so easy for Bethesda to make a whole base building system in the game, because that's basically the same system they used to build the game, you know. So potentially it could be like a case of them building a game on the creation engine, a spin-off similar to New Vegas, maybe set in a new place. Maybe they could do like, I don't know, Fallout Colorado or something. Although like they already did Wasteland set in Colorado, but you know, there's loads of locations they could explore for a Fallout game. And I think that makes a lot of sense if they're doing a creation engine game. Sorry, I'm choking here. But on the flip side, what if they were making like a Fallout Tactics game using the assets and engine and the code that they use for Wasteland 3? Because that could also be pretty cool as well. Like your VAT system, which is already in Wasteland basically under a different name, and a lot of those mechanics, but in the same world. For me, that makes a little less sense because Wasteland 3 only just came out, and it'd be very, very similar to Wasteland 3. Because let's face it, Wasteland and Fallout are almost the same franchise. And they're practically all the same franchise. Like if you go and look at the history, Fallout only exists because they lost the rights to Wasteland. So like Fallout was basically Wasteland 2, the original Fallout. But yeah, maybe a creation engine game, because In Exile does know their way around RPGs. They know their way around branching narrative really well. And honestly, I absolutely love In Exile's writing. It's just so damn good. But I don't know what you call it. The tactics genre, a lot of people just ain't into it, you know? You're not into it. Are you, Rand? You don't like tactics
I
games.
don't care for tactics games.
But if an Exile, but that's the thing. I want you to experience their writing, because their writing is great. It's like it's up there with like, you know, Obsidian for humor, and you know, they're very, very dark humor. Frankly, some of the people in Exile are a bit twisted, frankly speaking, but in a good way, in the best possible way, a bit twisted. But more people would experience their writing if they did make a creation engine sort of FPS Fallout RPG. I'd be totally on board for that. But yeah, I don't want to wait a million years for Fallout 5, Rand. I can't, you know.
I mean, I hope your Fallout fans get the game that you want sooner rather than later. But yeah, Nightwolf in the super chat says, Rand, thanks for that. You just tugged at my heartstrings with that nostalgic callback to my N64 days of WCW No Mercy. Love your fandom. It's for sure not the same. Yeah. Chris says, for Jez, has there been any more info on the big Halo Infinite mode in development at certain affinities since the Windows Central article?
I haven't heard anything, I'm afraid. It's another one of them wait and sees. Might be cancelled, might be still in development. Personally, I think it is still in development, and if I remember correctly off the top of my head, it's still they had like, I think they had like, was it this summer or next summer in mind? I can't remember, but it was still deep in development. Like it's just a long way away.
Yeah.
So
Jacques
when I heard about it, it was a long way away.
Jacqueline says, so 2K is going to make Lego games and the Lord of the Rings licenses for sale. Guys, what does this mean for the future of WB games? Jez?
Wait, what? The Lego licenses for sale, was that?
I think 2K's making Lego games now. So the license might have switched. Because normally the Lego games were made by WB, but now 2K's making Lego games. And the Lord of the Rings video game, I think movie license is up for sale, and
Hmm.
you know, I think WB had, at least for a bit, the licenses for that. So does it mean anything?
I have no clue. I mean, this is one of the reasons why Microsoft didn't want to buy Warner Brothers. What I heard is that all this licensing stuff is a bit of a mess to deal with. Um, but I haven't heard anything myself. I mean, what do you think, Rand? Because aren't you? I think I'm pretty sure you're more of a fan of Lord of the Rings than me.
Yes.
I've never played a Lego game actually,
Yes,
except for
I'm
Halo,
a
of
huge
course.
like Lord of the Rings fan.
I mean, did you like the games?
Yeah.
I thought the first Shadow of was it Shadow of Mordor, the first
Shadow of
one?
Mordor and then Shadow of War, yeah.
I thought Shadow of Mordor was really good and it had like a good charm and the systems were really interesting at the time. But I thought Shadow of War was Ubisofty and shallow. Did you get that feeling as well? I don't know. Like it almost like, and also there was that whole controversy about like to get the real ending, you have to basically grind for a million years, incentivizing you to buy the microtransactions, which really just put me off from playing it completely.
Yeah, I
But
remember that. I know.
yeah,
I really enjoyed those games. I've even played like the when EA had the license and they made like some of the games based on the movies and stuff.
mm,
Be interesting to see who picks up. We talked a little bit about this last week because we were like, who should pick up the Lord of the Rings gaming license, and we kind
oh
of
yeah,
both came to Amazon because they have the license for the TV show that they're doing, and they're also making a big push on games and stuff. Like maybe they pick it up, maybe Disney picks it up or whatever. Um,
I think I would prefer Disney to pick it up. I mean, I know like a lot of people sort of they don't like this whole like, oh no, Disney owning everything thing. But I'm sorry, but they've done a pretty great job with Marvel and Star Wars. So, and at the end of the day, it's only movies. It's not like they've got a monopoly on drinking water or something like that. It's only
you
movies.
know,
And they've proven to me that they can do a good job.
I would say if the Disney Fox merger was happening now, it probably would get blocked by the government.
By your boy Biden. Biden? Is it Biden
Yeah,
or Biden?
Joe Biden.
Biden. Yeah. I mean,
I know. It's like, but wait a minute. I want my X Men and my Disney movies, but they're being. Seems like they're being a lot
man,
more aggressive towards
isn't it
mergers and
yeah, isn't it
stuff.
true? But isn't it true that the acquisition, the merger went through because nobody objected to it? So like it just sort of went through by default. I'm sure I read that somewhere. That
Yeah, different
the government
administrations
had
have
an opportunity.
different
Oh, okay.
priorities and stuff. So, but now it might be like they might be more strict on stuff and be like, you know what, you're not getting through. So we'll just have to wait and see. Sergeant Rake says, listening to you both whilst chopping wood in the background or backyard, making my task highly enjoyable, gents. Much love to you both. Chopping wood, huh? That's that.
Fucking wood.
Never thought I'd ever get a super chat from someone saying that they're chopping wood listening to us talk about video games. That's
Dude, like we have to do that here. Like where I live, we have a wood burner and we have to every summer we have to chop a load of wood for the winter.
yeah.
I'm a city boy, so I was like, oh my god, they literally chop wood. This is so quaint and countryside-ish. So
Installation 7, Jez. He says, Rand and Jez, what are your predictions for which Xbox Game Studio projects will be shown off this year, either in June or at the Game Awards later?
it's a good question. I think that we're gonna see a lot of Bethesda stuff this year. I think we'll probably see Indiana Jones this year. I think, basically, I think this is the year Bethesda when it comes to Xbox related projects and stuff. I think we're going to see more stuff from Bethesda Games and Xbox Game Studios this year. I think next year we might see more from Xbox Game Studios like Undead Labs and whatever. But I think we'll see more from Bethesda. I think we'll see Indiana Jones. I think we'll see maybe what id's working on. Um, I reckon obviously we'll see Starfield this year, obviously, but I don't think we'll see too much from Xbox Game Studios this year, except for Forza, per the rumors. But maybe Rand disagrees. What do you think, Rand?
I mean,
Randy son.
Avowed,
Oh yeah, okay, we'll see Avowed this year.
Contraband, which, I mean, that's global publishing, so I just kind of wrap it into first party. I think you'll see Contraband because I think that's coming next year, right?
Yeah.
What else? I mean, it really depends on what's the schedule for 2023 because depending on who you talk to, Perfect Dark is supposed to come out next year. I don't think it will, but if it is, then we probably might see it again. Hellblade 2 is supposed to come out next year, which is the case. Maybe we see more of it sometime this year. I think even Fable was initially a 2023 title, but I doubt that very much so. I think that's 2024. I think we'll see Compulsion's game this year revealed because I think that's coming next year. I don't think we'll see Project Dragon because I still think that's further away.
Yeah, I think that's further away.
And then you got like a Bethesda, so you got Starfield and Redfall. Yeah, I do think we see another look at I think we see the first look at Indiana Jones from Machine Games. And yeah, maybe we do get like kind of a teaser or something for what id's doing. I don't know. There are a lot of things that they could work on. That's the whole point. Is like there's tons of projects, and even trying to think of like the 30 some odd studios that they have in my head, like I can't think of them all. I have to like have a list written down of potential projects that I can pull, but just off the top of my head, those are the ones that come to my mind. So. Yeah. Shab says Sackcast Studios game replaced, maybe delayed to their Belarusian dev team who have Ukrainian devs. They tweeted this. Yeah, well, that's, if making a video game when you're, when you got, when you're in Ukraine, that's the least thing that you're thinking about at this point in time, So, like I said, anybody using Stalker or Replace getting delayed as console war stuff is just a pathetic piece of garbage, Yeah. Regardless. So, Cade says, "Hey Jez, after the Activision Blizzard acquisition is complete, do you think then would be the time for Blizzard to start on a sequel to World of Warcraft, or should the MMO continue as is? Oh, are we going to get a World of Warcraft 2?
We need a Warcraft 2.
Yeah.
I'm right about this sometime. The engine is just run out of steam. Like that, it's amazing what they've done with that engine. It really is. Like the quest designers, what they've done. Because to make quests in World of Warcraft, they basically have to bolt different systems together on top of each other, and sort of they have to break their own game to make new mechanics and new systems to actually make new quests. And they're really, really stretching the limits of what they can do with that engine. World of Warcraft has the game has no real sense of gravity in it. So like a lot of things like physics and stuff, they just don't exist in that game. And physics are sort of one thing that you would probably need to have to add more dynamism to your game. But at the same time, that increases server load, and MMOs are a business. They're an existing, evolving kind of business. So when it comes to game design, they're always the approach is a little bit different than a regular game. But I do think it's probably time that they explored or at least considered Warcraft 2, because at this point, that engine is 17 years old, I think, off the top of my head. That's pretty extreme, right? So, yeah, but who knows? I think the base World of Warcraft still got some life in it, because even now, World of Warcraft has better combat than Final Fantasy 14, and it has better combat than New World, even though it is an old ass engine. It's just so damn responsive. It feels so damn good compared to a lot of other MMOs out there. But at the same time, there's not a lot they can do with it. So maybe I think I mean, correct if I'm wrong about this, Rand, but when Microsoft first buys Activision Blizzard, they need to clean house.
Yes, 100%.
They'll be cleaning house. They'll be organizing things again. Trying to get the company into sort of a better frame of mind, change the culture a bit and sort of make sure that everything's as, it needs to be. And then they'll probably start looking to what franchises to revive. Like, I hope they go to the devs and be like, what do you guys want to make? Are you content? Are you contented working on this forever? And look at some of the other franchises that have become dormant, like StarCraft and all that kind of stuff. But
No.
another one of them. Wait and see, baby.
Yeah. Our Elden Ring friend, Sin Vendetta, says, "Hey Rand, had to pop in and congratulate you for getting into Elden Ring with your boy Jez. Hope you're enjoying the game." I am. I am level... What did I hit last night? I'm level 75, and I hit 40 hours so far. And yeah. Although, I think me and Jez both have get to the point where we're like, maybe we're over the exploring of the open world at this point, and I kind of just want to like... just do what I need to do to beat the bosses and beat the game. Because I was exploring so much. I think I have like 11 swigs of my Crimson Flask with like a +8 on it. Which I was in a party with my buddy Gopher, and he's right about the same as me, but he only has 7. I'm like, you only have 7? Like, I have 11. Like, I'm swigging for days. Like, I'm fighting bosses,
dude,
and I'm just...
You got more than me.
I'm when I fight the boss, like, I'm very aggressive when it comes to boss fights. So I get in there and like whatever, because I'm running like a berserker build. So I'm running like 2 huge swords, and I'm just getting in there, swinging, jumping at them. And yeah, I'll get hit, but it doesn't matter because I got 11 flasks that I'll just use to get my health. Like, basically, and it's a +8, so like I have over 1,000 XP because I'm right now I'm kind of putting a lot of my levels into health, and I'm just kind of like get it at my health at the bottom, and boom, one flask, and I'm back at the top, and I'm like, I got 10 more to go, and I just go crazy aggressive,
Man, like, that's the complete opposite of me. Like, I've got 200 hours in the game across 2 saves because I did a melee. I started a melee playthrough for work because someone needed to write a melee guide, and we had Miles who was running through it to complete the game. Another chap was running through it to do boss guides, and I was like, well, I'll make a separate melee guide and do a melee guide or whatever. So I ended up with 2 saves, and as a result, I'm sort of like, my main save, which is my dude with the magic, like, he's pretty far behind, I think, where I'm meant to be at this point of the game. But I was just exploring so much. I was just like constantly exploring that I just sort of didn't really progress through the game at all, because that's what the game can do to you. But then I start realizing that I'm not really getting any useful items from doing all this exploration anymore that are useful for my class. So I'm kind of over the exploring now and just sort of following the main story and maybe looking up where I need to go to get the certain sorceries I want and stuff. Well, that's the thing about Elden Ring. You can sort of play it how you want. If you do want that experience of not knowing where anything is and stuff, you can do that. And if you try and explore everything, you're looking at a 300-hour game, I think, probably. But if you don't have that much time, you can just use Fextra Life's interactive map, find the exact items you want, and just sort of plot out your journey through the game, and then just ignore everything else. Kind of. Yeah.
Faye says, "What are our thoughts on other game devs talking bad about Elden Ring?" I have seen that kind of tweet chain make the rounds a little bit, Jez.
Yeah, I thought that was really cringe. Like, what? Why attack your fellow devs like that? I just thought that was really strange. Personally, I don't know what you thought about it.
Maybe they feel that From Software is getting a pass for things that their games have getting docked for. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It is a bad look. I don't know if you really should be doing that publicly like that, right? But I don't know.
The one of the guys who did that made his account, locked
Protected
his account.
it, yeah.
No, good to him. Yeah.
But once you tweet something out and people grab it, it's on the internet forever. So You know,
Yeah, a little
that's
bit. A
that's
little
why
bit.
you shouldn't be talking bad about microtransactions when Xbox does it, and then say it's no big deal when PlayStation does it, because people have those tweets, especially if you're trying to grift and trying to make trying to pass along how so much better PlayStation is. But then when PlayStation starts doing all the things Xbox is doing, and you hated on Xbox for doing all those things, but giving PlayStation a pass for it, people are gonna look at you a little side-eyed, you know.
Yeah, a
Uh,
little bit. A little
so you
bit.
gotta be careful of what you say on social media, because people are gonna grab everything. Um, but yeah, DB Cooper says he is chopping wood while I'm burning wood in my backyard. You guys help pass the time. Any thoughts on what comes out next year? I mean, I think a lot comes out next year. Avowed, Hellblade 2, Contraband. I'm just those off the top of my head. Compulsion's game, I think.
Do you think they could hold some stuff back? Could they be like,
Coalition's new
man, we got enough
project.
this year?
Yeah, I think there definitely will hold stuff back, but I think there's there's gonna be quite a bit, and if there's not, I'll be if look, I'm expecting I expected 2021, and 2022 to be light. Like, if you go back and listen to these podcasts, I was very much, me and Jez were out here being like, yeah, there ain't gonna be much. But I think, for a while, we're like, 2023 is supposed to be when all starts. And if we get to 2023 and it ends up being like all the other years where it's like, well, all the games are once again at the end of the year and there's 3 of them, I'm going to be like, this isn't how it's supposed to go. Like, you know what I mean? I'll be definitely a little perturbed at that point.
Perturbed. Good word.
Yeah. What else do we want to talk about here? Oh yeah, the Halo update. We kind of talked a little bit about it before. Mentioned that they put out Halo. How do you feel, Jez? I mean, because you put out a tweet that basically said, "Hey, Halo should have been delayed." Because I think Paris had said something similar, that the game wasn't ready, and it's pretty clear, hindsight 2020, that maybe the game shouldn't be ready. But they released I don't even know, would you call it a roadmap? But so Halo Infinite Season 2 is called Lone Wolves, and it's coming on May 3rd. There is one new arena map called Catalyst and one new big team battle map called Breaker. There are 3 new game modes, one Last Spartan Standing, Land Grab, and an updated King of the Hill. Co-op will be launching during Season 2, but not at the beginning. 4-player co-op, and I think 2-player local co-op as well. And Forge is on track for Season 3. The next Season 1 event, Tactical Ops, starts next week. Marketing and info on Season 2 will start in April. And Forge is already in private flighting, with public flights coming later this year. And they also posted this thing called about Priority Zero, which is, they have a thing called Priority Zero, which is undergrinds everything they do, namely team health, with an emphasis on getting ourselves into a sustainable development rhythm so that we can deliver great experiences to all of you while keeping a healthy work-life balance. Priority Zero means that we sometimes need to move slower so that we can move faster later. And frankly, these last few months have been slower than we expected, and we sincerely thank you for your patience as we stay true to the priorities above. So, how do you feel about this Halo update?
I mean, I'm not a Halo fan at all. I thought Halo Infinite was monstrously average in every aspect. As you know, I liked it at first, and then I was like, the more I played it, I was like, actually, I'm bored of these 2 maps. I think a lot of people are feeling the same way. So, does it do enough? Probably not. But at the same time, the industry has undergone a lot of transformations in recent years. And I think like there is a huge shift towards anti-crunch culture. But what that looks like for service games, which demand constant updates, I think is still sort of, I don't know, influx maybe. Maybe they're still trying to figure out what it looks like when you're sort of trying to balance the whole crunch culture and burning everyone out with um, having a steady flow of content. And I think what you ultimately need to do is probably hire more people, right? If you wanna have like a game that has regular updates that to retain players, you need to have a lot of content. And if you don't have the content because you're operating with an aggressive anti-crunch culture policy, which is great and important, and I totally support that, that there shouldn't be crunch, then I think Microsoft needs to open its wallet and hire more people. And to some degree, it looks like they are trying to do that. Like they do have a ton of vacancies if you go on their website for all of their studios. And it does to some degree look to me that they are trying to do that, to offset crunch culture by just, having loads of hiring. But are they there yet? Probably not, Is it gonna be another one of those like, well, you just have to wait for them to ramp up and stuff? Because there's a lot of service games out there that sort of went through this period where they launched, the content was thin and slow, everyone was kind of salty about it,
And then
and
it
maybe
got
they
better.
left and explored other games.
Yeah.
But then it did get better. Like No Man's Sky is a pretty good example of
I mean,
this.
all of them, Jez.
Um,
Sea of Thieves, big first couple
yeah,
seasons were bad. Apex Legends first couple seasons were bad. Call of Duty, like it's almost
yeah,
nobody really has the best live service approach out there. So like now, so co-oping essentially, well, kind of delayed again. I guess I don't know. They said it would be there season 2, and it's still there, but it's not at launch. So now, like people are talking about, like the game should have been delayed and should be coming out in May instead of coming out last fall. I think it's just
I can see both sides of the argument. Like part of me's like, yeah, they should have delayed it, and like part of me's like, I don't like this whole culture of release it now, fix it later. But at the same time, it's kind of like, it's also free.
yeah.
So you're
It's
not really losing anything for not playing it, you know?
I think there's certain
It's a
people
hard
that
one.
want the game, to have the game, and then like never get bored with it and never like jump out from it. And like the live, it really does seem like the live service aspect of Halo Infinite is kind of letting the game down at this point, because people enjoyed the campaign, right? Co-op's not there, which I still think, like, as much as I enjoyed that campaign, I was just thinking when I was playing through it, like, oh my god, how much better this game would be in 4-player co-op with like the grapple hook and everything. Like that game's made for co-op, and it sucks it wasn't there. And like the multiplayer, the underpinnings of the multiplayer is really great. It sort of seemed like the live service stuff is what kind of people had problems with. They had problems with the progression and the challenge stuff, right? And they changed that really quickly, and people were able to get to 100 in the battle pass like faster than 343 wanted them to, because they knew that season 2 was going to be delayed an extra 2 months or whatever. And people were like, well, people aren't happy with this, so we need to change this. So now people are done with their battle passes and they got nothing to do. And there was the stuff about pricing, and I think 343 is trying to figure it out. So I think when if you've fallen off of Halo Infinite, and one of the reasons you've fallen off is like, I'm sick of playing on the new maps, or I'm sick of playing on these maps. I think then seeing like, oh, there's only one new big team battle map and one new arena map probably doesn't really excite you, because you probably thought there'd be more. So yeah, I don't know. Like I sort of do feel like maybe kind of like with Battlefield 2042 and Call of Duty Vanguard, the other two big shooters this past fall, maybe it would have been best for both those games, for all those games, if they were all delayed to this year. Maybe it would have been best for Halo if it was delayed until, May of this year or fall of 2022. Although they got a lot of crap for delaying it 1 year, I can't imagine how much more crap they would have gotten it delayed for another year. maybe they
Yeah.
need to have the game out and then figure all this stuff out on the fly, that what people actually want, right? I don't know. I'm not a game developer. I don't know how things work. All these things work. So I just know that a lot of people in the Halo community are upset, and there's definitely people are upset that those people are upset, right? I see it. I see it all the time. Like you know, how can those people be upset at 343? Give them time and all that stuff, and it's just there's kind of like a clash going on of between people that are upset with what 343 is doing and not addressing stuff fast enough, and then people are upset at those people being upset. So yeah, I fell off of Halo Infinite. I'm going to play through the campaign again when the co-op comes out. I think I've said from the start what the game needs is a battle royale. I've been saying that from the beginning. And I know some people in chat will not like me for this, and probably longtime Halo fans won't like. Battle Royale is the dominant gaming multiplayer mode right now. And if you're launching a multiplayer game and you don't have the dominant gaming mode, then you're probably going to see player drop off like Halo experienced, especially on PC. And I do think a battle royale will come at some point. It's a 10-year plan. I'm sure they have something in out there, but it's hard to tell people to be patient, right? And to say, look at all these other examples of games whose first couple seasons weren't very good and then got really, really better. Because it's always tough to tell somebody, yeah, right now it may not be great, but a year from now it's going to be outstanding and you'll have so much content that you know what to do with. It's tough because people have sometimes it's very hard for them to envision the future. To think like, whoa, it's going to be better than it is now because right now is not very good. And I think a lot of Halo fans sort of feel like that. So it's like, hey, the gameplay is great, but I'm bored of these maps. I want to get rid of these PC cheaters, all that stuff. And now I'm not getting any new maps, hardly. And you're not addressing the cheating. It seems like 343 doesn't care when I'm sure you they really do care. It's just I don't know. I mean, you made the decision to go to free to play. You made the decision to go to live service. So it's like these are all things that you have to deal with. You have to deal with the fan base that is very vocal and ravenous and wants new content all the time. And you're not competing with Call of Duty Warzone Season 1 or Fortnite Season 1 or Sea of Thieves Season 1 or any of these other games that have been out for a while, Rainbow Six Season 1, you're competing with all those studios that are in lock, key, and step and know what they're doing because they've been doing it for a while and they're pumping out content because they're a well-oiled machine, right? And you're just starting out, so it does look bad in comparison to what's out there right now. But a year from now, maybe that's not the case. So, I don't know. I just I don't really think it's a great update. A lot of the talk on social media is that it should have been delayed until this up. But even still, if it had been delayed to this update, you only get an extra 2 new maps. I don't really know if that's 3 new modes. Like, I don't know. We'll see. There's been plenty of stories of games that have gotten better as it went along, but I also kind of agree with you, Jez. The whole idea of like we'll release it now and fix it later, I don't really care for either, right? So release it now, we'll patch it later. But then what happens? They got Battlefield 2042. EA thought the same thing, and now nobody cares about Battlefield 2042. Period. So yeah.
F's in the chat.
F's in the chat. Sin Vendetta says, "Hey Rand, can't listen live, but just wanted to pop in and say I hope you're enjoying Elden Ring with your boy Jez. Glad to see you get into these games. Have a good weekend." Yeah, I'm really enjoying Elden Ring. 40 hours in, level 75, and having a blast. So you were right, and so is Jez. Installation 7 says people would probably be more optimistic if 343 actually knows that theater mode and custom games are still broken. Let's see. Richie says, think there's a chance we'll get another exclusive Ninja Gaiden game on the Xbox platform?
Good question.
Yeah, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be something, but
I would like that.
Yeah. There's so much they could do. There's so much they could do. But they've got one of the things that concerns me about Xbox right now is the sheer volume of stuff they've got to organize, you know. Like, how long is it going to be before we start seeing the results of some of this complexity that they've sort of put on themselves almost? Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, Jez. We've been saying that for a bit. So.
A bit indeed.
Georgie says another reason for timed exclusives on the level of Final Fantasy 16. Keyshawn Thompson has been a member for 4 months. Says, hey guys, great show. With Elden Ring out of the way, what are you looking most forward to in Starfield? Hashtag swiggin' for days. What am I most looking forward to Starfield? I guess
I'm kind of. Sorry, go on.
It's tough to really say because we haven't seen the gameplay. So I'm a sucker for sci-fi. So there's a part of me that is always going to be interested in a story in a sci-fi game. But then I'm also like, what's the combat look like? You know what I mean? What type of guns are we using here? How do you traverse systems? Are you actually flying a plane? These are questions I have. You know, is Tom Cruise going to be a voice actor in the, you know, yeah.
That's a rumor, right?
I mean, there was that thing. Yeah. I don't know. What are you looking forward most to in Starfield, Jez? I mean, it's tough to say because we haven't seen anything from it. So,
well, I extrapolate from kind of stuff they did in Fallout 4 because that was like their most recent, or Bethesda Core Studios' most recent game. The coolest thing for me in Fallout 4 was the base building. I thought like the RPG branching narrative really took a step back. So I really hope they fix that in the sense that our choices matter a bit more than they did in Fallout 4. At Fallout 4, I felt like my choices didn't matter, which was, you know, it was the wrong direction for what I expect of a Bethesda game. So I hope they fix that. And I think they will. I think they saw that criticism a lot in the reviews, and I think they will fix that. But one of the things that I'm interested in is like the base building mechanics from Fallout 4, like, could they translate that somehow to designing our own ships? Like, you know, is there going to be ship combat in the game, even if it's sort of like an on rails kind of thing? Like, how much sci-fi are we talking here? Like, is it just going to be Fallout in space, or are they actually going to push it out and add some like new sort of systems and mechanics to it, like that you wouldn't expect of a creation engine RPG? Like, can I build my own custom spaceship and, you know, do some form of combat with it, even if it's like a sort of, you know, almost like a turn-based kind of thing or something, you know, or it's like an automatically resolving combat scenario or something. I just want to be able to create my own spaceship. That's what I really want out of the game. Let me build a spaceship. You let me build a base in Fallout 4, which was great. Now I want to build a spaceship. But that's the thing, though. We don't know anything about the game or what to expect. It's almost like shrouded in this strange mystery.
Yeah, and I remember I think Todd saying that game had so much hype for a game that nobody knew anything about. I thought that was kind of funny. But it's a Todd Howard game, so, and it's exclusive. You know, exclusive games get a lot more hype than a lot of other games, right? So
yeah, for sure.
Xbox Game Pass got a pretty big game. It's coming soon. Guardians of the Galaxy, Jez. A lot of people call it the sleeper hit of 2021 from Square Enix and Eidos Montreal, even though Square Enix came out and said, hey, the game underperformed. Is Square Enix ever happy with any of the games they put out? Because it always seems like they always say their games underperform, but that's coming to Game Pass, which is like 4 months after launch, I think, because the game came out at the end of October, so November, December, January, February, 4 months. Um, yeah. So, have you played Guardians of the Galaxy? Are you planning to play it when it hits
I
Game
haven't
Pass?
played it. I'm not really planning on playing it because I'm not a Marvel dude. But
Okay.
maybe I'll go out my maybe I'll subvert my own expectations and give it a try because
It's
that's
it's really
kind of what I
good.
do. Star Wars.
I mean, even though you're not it's not like it's set in the MCU. It's just a story about the Guardians of the Galaxy, Jez. It's really good. You should give it a chance. Anybody out there who
I'll give it.
hasn't really played it yet, definitely check it out when it comes to Game Pass.
I'll give it a chance for you, Rand.
Yeah, part of me hopes that Xbox liberates Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics from Square. I think they're completely underutilized by them. I don't think Square appreciates them, and I would personally love it if Xbox took those two studios under their wing to work on future games.
That'd be cool.
Because I don't think I don't. I just have this feeling like if Square is gonna shut down these studios, like Eidos Montreal, like they did Deus Ex, and Deus Ex was basically fridged, right? Because it wasn't selling. And then, yeah, I mean, Deus Ex, they did Deus Ex Mankind Divided, and it didn't sell well because these sales for these games are never good enough for Square Enix. So they're like, nope, done with Deus Ex. And then Eidos Montreal had to do Tomb Raider, right? They did Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which, if I remember correctly, also didn't Square Enix wasn't happy with because they wanted to turn Crystal Dynamics into making, games as a service. So they had them make Marvel Avengers, which they weren't happy with. And then Eidos Montreal's like, well, we can't work on Tomb Raider Deus Ex, but we do have the connections with Marvel, because Crystal Dynamics working on the Avengers. Why don't you work on Guardians of the Galaxy? And then Guardians of the Galaxy had like some of the worst pre-marketing blitz I've ever seen. Like people were like, that game looks horrible, but then you actually play it and it's amazing. And it doesn't sell well. And now so it's like, okay, what are we doing with these studios? It seems like they don't know what they're doing at Square when it comes to these things. Just sell those two studios to Microsoft or whoever else, PlayStation, whatever. Get them out from underneath Square Enix because they're being completely underutilized. And let's have a brighter future for them, Jazz. You know what I mean?
Yep. Square Enix, like there are some of the industry websites are actually writing articles like, "What the hell is wrong with Square Enix?" like people don't get it. The Square Enix is, I don't know, strange company. Like they have all this talent and they're just sort of wasting them in a way. But I don't know. They've been doing it for years. They've been Square Enix has almost been entirely relying on its Final Fantasy operation, which I think is relatively hands off. Compared to like their Western operation, which they don't let go hands off, and they run it really poorly for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But
I
agree with you. Someone else should buy them.
Gash Mustache says, "Is it safe to say BioWare is in the bin now? Haven't had high hopes for new Mass Effect. To be honest, like Jez, I love it, but I got a feeling it's gonna fall flat." Isn't there some good feeling for the new Dragon Age? Aren't people saying it's kind of shaping up to be good or something?
Yeah, I got some mild information about this. Like, I've heard that the new Dragon Age is shaping up really well, and like I'm someone who's super pessimistic and I've been on record on this show many times to say that I don't have any faith in anything with the EA brand on it. But I've heard from people I trust a lot that Dragon Age 4 is shaping up really nicely, which is a shocker to me. So I'm like, I'm still kind of like, I'll believe it when I see it, but it does sound like there is hope for BioWare at the moment. And I think EA might have learned its lesson a little bit, maybe, for at least temporarily, which might result in a few good games from BioWare until they forget again and try and get them to make a service game, because we know that's what EA likes to do. Is like they're like, oh yeah, we're good now, and then they do a couple of good games, and then they forget how to make games again, and then they do a load of bad games, and we have this cycle. That's the EA cycle, we call it. But it does sound like, from sources, that Dragon Age is shaping up really nicely. So I'm more optimistic now because the people I trust said that it looks good. So yeah, there's some optimism for you for a change.
um, yeah, there's just one other thing I wanted to talk about because it always kind of I get tagged in this nonsense every single week, and I think we've talked about it on the show, but the UK physical sales, Jez, versus the actual sales, and it's just this is something I just wanted to prove because Elden Ring, right? Because normally we get sales from MPD once a month, but we get like UK sales once a week. Um, Elden Ring really had a great launch. I think it was like the biggest non-FIFA, was it like non-FIFA or Call of Duty launch since like Red Dead Redemption in 2018 or something. It's absolutely huge. But people use the physical sales charts of the UK as console war ammunition because when it was reported that the sales split for Elden Ring in the UK was 80-20. 80% for PlayStation, 20% for Xbox. And every single week, a multi-platform is released, and it has that sort of split. People use that as, oh, this is more and more proof that nobody buys games on Xbox, right? That they're just waiting for Game Pass. It's just, communism gaming or whatever hell they call it, right? Nobody's buying games on Xbox. 80 to 20%. Like, that's pathetic, right? Utterly pathetic. Of course, they do this every single time because it puts PlayStation in like a really good light, and it also puts Xbox in a really bad light. And that's what a lot of these guys love to do. It's not enough that PlayStation has to succeed. Xbox has to fail, right?
Yeah.
However, these people don't realize that the UK physical charts is basically irrelevant, right? It means nothing in a world of all digital, and Xbox is primarily almost an all digital platform at this point. So the full numbers came out, Jez, right? For Elden Ring, with digital included. So we went from physical sales, 80% PlayStation, 20% Xbox, which, yeah, look bad, right? But suddenly, with digital included, the splits are 40% PlayStation, 30% PC, and 30% Xbox. With Xbox selling 85% of their sales digitally. But nobody really talks about that. It's interesting. So now the split with digital included went from 80-20 to suddenly 40-30, which is in line with the hardware splits in the UK. And I just wanted to point it out once again because I get tagged in this nonsense on Twitter, and I just wanted to say for the last time, hopefully, that nobody should be using UK physical charts to talk about the success or failure of any game or any platform because it's completely meaningless. And I know you agree with me on this, Jez.
Xbox does skew digitally. And one of the reasons for this is the Xbox One. Because when they announced the Xbox One, they were pretty much like, yeah, this is a digital console. It's going to have digital check-in. It's going to be digital this, digital that. And a lot of people who went Xbox for that generation, they all went digital, And also, Microsoft pushes digital more. There's like ads on the dashboard, which everyone hates the ads on the dashboard, right? And yeah, nobody wants ads on the dashboard. But at the same time, the ads on the dashboard contributes to the digital split because people see ads for games that they otherwise wouldn't. They see sales for games that they otherwise wouldn't, and they make impulse purchases from the dashboard that they otherwise wouldn't. So, like, I've heard from sources at Ubisoft, funnily enough, that their performance on digital on Xbox is stronger than it is on PlayStation because of the way the dashboard is set up. It's set up to be a digital console, and it's set up to push people towards digital, and it's set up to lock people into digital somewhat. We can argue about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, fine. But what it doesn't represent is, the split of where people are buying games. Both platforms are very healthy and doing very well. So, leave the console war to one side for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And just have some gaming time.
Capcom also announced that Resident Evil 2, 3, and 7 are getting next-gen enhancements. Jez, does this make you want to replay any of these games when they eventually get the Series X enhancements?
Yeah, maybe actually. Like, I really enjoyed Resident Evil 2, and I actually I want to do it the reverse way. Can you actually do that in Resident Evil 2 remake, where you like do scenario A first or Claire first and whatever? I don't know if you
I
can even
think
do that in the remake.
I don't remember. It's been a while. You might be able to.
Yeah, maybe you can't. I don't know. I also think like I really do think Resident Evil 3 should have just been a DLC for Resident Evil 2. There was no business for that game to have been full price, and I think I completed it in like 3 hours. Like, seriously, you're going to sell me a 3 hour long game for full price? But I don't know. That's a very old discussion. But yeah, I might go for it again. Maybe. There sort of be like the definitive versions of the game, and Resident Evil 7 is awesome. I really really love that game. So I don't know. I'll probably give it another go. Will you give it a go? Or no?
I mean, I played through 2 twice. I did both paths. I played through 3 once, and I played through 7 2 or 3 times, so probably not.
Fair enough.
If I did play any of them again, maybe it would be 3 because it's the shortest. I don't know. I love 7 and I love 2. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I probably won't. Who am I kidding? I was thinking like maybe I go through Resident Evil 2 again, but I've already kind of.
Well, I was thinking that I might consider it purely on the basis that there's not much coming out this year. That was my thought process. But I still haven't completed Dark Souls 2 or 3 or played Sekiro or a lot of the other games that I'm interested in playing from software, from software. So I don't know. There's going to be a long wait for a lot of stuff, I think.
Icehaler says, I thought overall sales mattered, not just parcel digital sales. It was more just to point out that physical sales are meaningless, essentially. That you can't get a full picture of everything with digital included. And that, the idea of saying a game is a failure or a platform is a failure because based on one country's physical sales is a joke. That was basically the reason for saying it. Jonas says, Elden Ring reminds me a lot of Morrowind. I've seen that a lot recently, so people say that it reminds them a lot of Morrowind.
When I got to Caelid, the first thing I thought was Morrowind, I think. So
that area is pretty damn awesome looking. I really like that area.
Caelid looks intense.
Yeah.
I also like the people who made Caelid are creative geniuses, but also very mean, very nasty people.
Oh yeah.
Because Caelid is horrible. It's a hellscape, horrible place, and I hate being there. And whenever I go to Caelid, I think I'm looking forward to leaving because it's so horrible here. But I'm actually there right now as we're podcasting, fighting a death bird that's trying to murder me very horribly as I podcast.
Yeah.
But I've got to the point where I'm a little bit OP, so.
You know what? I think that's going to be a good point to end the show there, Jez. I think we talked about everything that I had written down. If there's any questions from the people, make sure you put them in chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. I hope everybody has a great rest of the weekend. Hopefully there'll be more to talk about next week. But thank you guys so much for being here. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. We'll have this up on podcast platforms really soon, probably later today, maybe most likely early tomorrow morning. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and all that stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in on Saturday, an hour earlier than normal, especially with nothing to talk about. We had over almost 1,000 people, which is amazing to see. So thank you guys so much.
Thanks so much.
Jez, there was this little other thing I wanted to briefly talk about while we wait for some questions. Apparently 2.3 million Xbox consoles have been sold in Japan across all the generations, according to Famitsu.
Across all generations?
Yeah, so Xbox 360 sold the most with 1.6 million, and then the OG Xbox had 472,000. Xbox One sold 114,000. Look at that drop off from Xbox 360 to the Xbox One. 1.6
Well,
million to 114,000. However, on the bright side, Xbox Series X and S is already past the Xbox One at 142,000. So still a fall drop off from the 360 and the OG Xbox, but it's doing better than the Xbox One. And that's why when Microsoft says it's their fastest growing market, it really doesn't mean much. You know?
yeah. It's still better than nothing.
Happy Cloud Gamer says,
that.
don't forget xCloud mouse and keyboard support's coming. I did see that, yeah,
Oh,
Jez.
yeah.
Xbox Clouds. You're the one that's all about xCloud. I'm surprised you didn't mention that.
Yeah, it was actually like it was an interesting like random footnote in one of their blog posts recently when they were talking about, I can't remember off the top of my head. They were talking about Flight Simulator coming at Xbox. And
Yes.
they were just like yeah, Flight Simulator's coming to Xbox, and yeah, we know a lot of people like playing Flight Simulator with mouse and keyboard, and I don't know exactly when it's coming, but we are working on mouse and keyboard support out of the blue. So yeah, mouse and keyboard support is coming for xCloud, which is going to be huge. It's going to be a really big deal because it means they can start putting PC games on the cloud, which I think is going to change the game a little bit. But
yeah,
I don't know.
And the top 5 best-selling Xbox games in Japan. Can you guess what number 1 is?
Pokemon?
No. Dead or Alive 3. Sold 270,000 copies. Number 2 is Star Ocean. What?
Are these Xbox games?
Xbox games in Japan, yes. The best-selling.
Sorry,
so Dead or Alive 3 at 270,000. Star Ocean 4 at 208,000. Tales of Vesperia at 204,000. Blue Dragon at 203,000. And The Last Remnant at 154,000. So, interesting numbers from Japan over there. So, let's see if we got any questions. Let's see. Omega Chris says Resident Evil 4 remastered, a remake. It's happening. It's come, I think, this year and next year. Now, I don't know of happening in the world right now. And someone else asked about the chances of Resident Evil 4. When do we think Resident Evil 4 is going to release this year? Or when do we think it's releasing? I think Resident Evil 4 is going to be next year. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Resi 4 is next year, probably.
Yeah.
What I really want to know about Capcom is, like, what the hell? What happened to Stigmata? What happened? Stigmata just disappeared out of nowhere.
Stigmata?
Don't you remember that game?
Or Pragmata?
Pragmata, not Stigmata. What's Stigmata?
That got delayed to 2023, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, is that officially delayed?
I think it got officially delayed. Usually Resident Evil... If I'm misremembering, don't Resident Evil games usually get launched early in the year? Like Resident Evil 8 launched March of last year. I think 2 and 3 also released early in the year too. I actually think Resident Evil 2 released in January. Resident Evil 7 I think released in January as well. So normally Resident Evil games typically release the first 3 months of a year. So that's why I'm expecting Resident Evil 4 maybe early next year. What's up, K. Asante? He says, what are the chances that Redfall makes 2022? I think they're good.
Yeah, I think it makes 2022 for sure.
I think it's going to be... I think it's not going to make summer. Summer is basically what? July, August, September. I think it's going to come out in fall. I think it'll be like an October release, right around Halloween, with the whole vampire stuff. But I think it'll release this year. George wants to know, why doesn't Microsoft partner with Japanese developers like they're doing with Avalanche and IOI Interactive? Like partner with Kojima from Software, Bandai Namco, Team Ninja. It's probably harder for them to do because they don't really have a lot of support in that country. Nobody, as we just talked about, nobody really buys Xboxes there. Nobody really buys games. So it's probably much harder for Microsoft to make those partnerships, which is why maybe it's a big deal if they can actually lock down the Kojima partnership, right?
Yeah, it's there's a cultural aspect there for sure. Like not knowing like the right people or having the right connections or the business relationships and stuff like that. And I do think they're working on that because they've literally hired someone whose job it is to facilitate that. And personally, I think I said before, I think a good strategy would be, you know, leverage Shinji Mikami and see if he wants to. Because originally Tango Gameworks was supposed to be an incubator to find Japanese talent, and if he still wants to do that, then like you could, have build that up as a sort of, Xbox Japan, make it a whole division, and then see if Shinji wants to, run it basically. That's like a probably a far fetched idea by me, but I do think if they do want to expand into Japan, they need some more of those games and those relationships in place, those style of games which Western devs just don't do that well, if at all. So I don't know.
Yeah. Token
Wait and
says,
see.
do you think the Twitter algorithm is pushing more console war engagement lately? Um,
That's an interesting question. I think social media in general thrives on conflict, and they probably like a lot of the time accidentally push conflict because if the algorithm detects that you engage in these kind of console wars, if you click on them or anything like that, there's a chance that it will just be like, oh yeah, we'll show you more of that because you engaged with it. Doesn't matter if you liked it, just if you clicked on the tweet or clicked into someone's profile to see, you know, if how stupid they are, they'll count that as a like, which is really annoying. And TikTok does the same thing, and so does Instagram. So if you see more console wars stuff, I would say just start blocking accounts en masse. That's what I did. When I started seeing console war stuff, I just started spam blocking the hell out of everything. And now I don't see a damn thing about console wars ever because I blocked literally half of the bloody platform.
well, Twitter has those lists where you can follow like Xbox, PlayStation, or stuff, and the things is that the console war tweets happen daily, and some of them get a lot of engagement. So if you're following a topic like Xbox, you're gonna get a lot of those tweets. And like Jess says, if
Yeah.
you're engaging with that stuff, then you're probably gonna get shown it. So, I don't know. I used
Well,
them.
yeah, that's another thing though. It's like even if you're not engaging with it, if like someone's crapping on Xbox and they're saying like Xbox sucks, Twitter will be like, "Oh, that's part of the Xbox topic," so I'll slap that in there. And then if you've engaged with the Xbox topic, maybe you'll see it like that. Algorithms suck, basically. I
Yeah.
mean, I've gained. In fact, there probably is a good chance that they are showing more console war tweets, and it's probably symptomatic of the fact that they're showing more interest-based tweets than they used to. And the reason I think this is probably true is because since Christmas, I've gained around 5,000 followers, which is like the most amount of followers I've ever gained in a short space of time out of nowhere. And I was really confused as to why this happened. I was like, "What the hell? Like, where did all these followers come from?" And maybe it is because they're ramping up algorithmic stuff and algorithmic engagement, and maybe that's why that's happening more. But that's purely speculation on my part. Could be BS. I could be just making that all up.
Yeah.
But who
Uh,
knows?
Widia says, Jez, the conflict in Ukraine highlights problems with the sourcing of some rare metals and gases for manufacturing of tech. How do you think it will affect the sourcing of PS5 and the Series X consoles?
Don't care. Tell me how it matters when people's lives are at stake. I really could not care less about rare metals personally, but I don't
Yeah.
know. That's just me. Don't care about rare metals. Doesn't matter.
Well, I would imagine if it is hard to source them, then there'll be more shortages. But like Jez says, it doesn't really matter when you have like real conflict going on because of it. So, um, yeah, let's see. Sean says, do you think Xbox needs more mobile devs? It seems like Take Two have a lot of mobile dev studios. I believe a lot of mobile game studios will be bought, and soon Xbox needs to act fast. I think you said that they should buy more, shouldn't they, Jez?
Yeah, I
More
think they
mobile
should.
studios, yeah. to help kind of like port games to the phone, and stuff like that. So yeah, yeah. I think that's all the questions that I see in here. So thank you guys so much for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be hopefully back on Friday with a lot more to talk about. Maybe I'll have Elden Ring done by then, and I can give my proper thoughts about the game. So yeah, enjoy your weekend, guys, and keep it gaming. Later.